Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I am Mark Goldbridge. I am not a young Michael Caine. I'm only 16 years old. I told her not to blow the bloody doors off. I will not bury another Batman. I will not bury another Batman. Anyway, enough of that crap Michael Caine stuff. It's going for Goldbridge and it's back. So smash a like and subscribe if you are new. I like doing these. I just always feel a little bit like, do people like them? So look, it's going to be your questions. I've gone for the two biggest questions that I always get asked. I thought, we're coming back with it, so let's get straight into it. The first one I'm going to talk about is KSI versus Logan Paul, which is not the question I've been asked, but feeds nicely into what I want to sort of start off with. It's about beef. It's not about chicken. It's about beef. Like, people are always asking me, why have you got a beef with this? Why have you got a beef with them? Why have you got a beef with them? I think beef's last year. Veganism is this year, and there's no beef in that. It's not allowed. And I do think that fair play to KSI and Logan Paul. I think they're going to make a lot of money out of something that's going to be watched absolutely huge. It's going to be on Sky box office, isn't it? Fantastic. Well done. Absolutely no resentment at all. I don't have resentment towards people who do really well, especially when I don't know them, so I don't know whether they're a nice person or a dickhead, so it doesn't even bother me at all. But I do feel that this is almost the tip of the iceberg in relation to beef, and especially YouTube beef. I hope this is the end of it, because I think it's so 2000 and whatever, whenever. I mean, my personal journey with beef started 5 years ago when the United Stand started. And basically we came into an area that we knew nothing about, and I just wanted to talk about football openly and have my say. And we came into a world that was established. I didn't know it was established, and some people didn't like it when you come on the scene and you are very outspoken and they've got an established audience and they are like, oh, hold on. And I actually was told, get in line and show respect. And I was like, you don't say that to me. I don't do bullies. I don't do being told what to do. I have a voice. I'm going to have my voice, and people will decide whether they want to listen to that voice. And fortunately, I suppose some people did, but that's how it all started for me. And then you get people muscling in and, gobby stuff and all that. But that was probably four or 5 years ago. And the people that I fell out with a little bit that I regret the most is probably people like Loz and Brian True Geordie, because they sort of got involved in the crossfire and I didn't even know them, but I still gobbed off. And I always feel guilty about that. And we've sorted that out in a mature way, because that really was the wrong way for me to approach it. However, I still get lots of people saying, what's your beef with this person? What's your beef with that person? What's your beef with that person? Look, what I would say is, we are living in a world now, especially around social media personalities, especially around fan content, where people see something that's successful and think, I want to be a piece of that pie. But instead of getting their head down and coming up with something new and grafting, like I and many others have done, even our rivals, they've been grafting at it for years. I have to respect that. And I certainly have. And Drawty and Flex and everybody and Rants and everyone, we graft at this. There's a lot of hard work that goes behind the scenes, which I'll talk about in a minute, because people want to say, is this your full-time job? And I get asked that loads, and I'll answer it in a moment. But the point is that to be successful is graft. You don't just tweet me or Rants and go, you're a dickhead, and we go, oh, you're a nobody, let's get into an argument so all my followers can look at you. That's just not how it works. You've got to graft, and I've always said this, you've got to have an independent voice. I get asked a lot, what would your tip be if you want to be an Instagram or a vlogger or whatever? And I'm like, have your own voice, don't copy somebody else. And if you're not successful, it's because you're not good enough, or you're unlucky. But there seems to be at the moment, especially over the last few months, a real increase in people trying to create beef with each other, especially around the United community, which is odd, because I don't agree with it, I regret it, and I find it quite embarrassing when I see AFTV people arguing with each other, and I certainly find it embarrassing when I look back at the arguments I used to have with people in the United community. It's embarrassing when people within the community start arguing with each other. It's embarrassing. You support the same club, you're basically just arguing to be the better fan, and I find that really, really embarrassing. And the second thing for me is, I don't actually have any beef with anybody. I don't. Like, people keep saying, oh, you've got a beef with DT, you've got a beef with Terry, you've got a beef with the Full-Time Devils, you've got a beef with whoever. I don't have any beef with anybody. And if anybody doesn't know what beef is, arguments. I don't. I haven't mentioned anybody for a very long time. I think I probably mentioned DT a bit, but to me, That is banter. And the reason I say it's banter is because I saw him 2 weeks ago. I saw him 2 weeks ago at a football match, and we had a conversation, and it was amicable. We don't get on. I wouldn't say we're friends. We're not friends, but it was face to face. And I always say this to people. And I met somebody else who's always had problems with me. And I'm like, I go up to them, and if they want to bring it, and I don't mean in a violent way because I'm not a violent person, if they want to come at me with the stuff they say on social media, let's do it face to face. But they don't. And that's not me because they're scared or intimidated. They just don't, because it's pantomime. I think social media is pantomime. And I've had evidence of that. Because all these people who go, oh, you're a Forest fan. Oh, you're a fake fan. Oh, you've got a fake name. Well, look, we all know the true story behind all of that anyway. We know the Forest fan was put out there by people trying to demean and undermine the United stand, and it's proven. And I can name and quote those people if you want me to, but I don't really can't be asked with going over old ground. My name thing is because I had a job where I had to use a different name. So all this fake name bollocks and everything like that. But the people who say all this stuff, I was at a charity match in May at Old Trafford and sat next to one of these people and looked at them and went, all right. And they went, yeah, I'm fine. And I'm like, you've said loads of stuff about me on social media, but you don't want to take this opportunity face to face. No. And then another person started gobbing off on their private group, emailed them, said, let's sort this out. They were like, yeah, okay, come up and we'll have a chat about it. I said, how about Tuesday? Never heard back from them again. Like I say, there's a couple of people I've met face to face, and you sort of go into it expecting there to be an argument, and they're like, oh yeah, how you doing, mate? So it's all a pantomime, and I don't have a problem with that, because if people don't want to say it to my face and it's all for social media, fine. It literally is all for growth. They want the social media argument because it helps them grow, but in real life they don't want it. They don't want an argument then because, you know what, it's not that deep really, it's just social media, and that's all you get from them. So there's the truth. It's probably not as glamorous as you want it to be, but there's your truth. All this stuff, and there's a big increase in it at the moment because people want to grow off beef. But it's so passé, it's so last year, it's so 2 years. For me, it's so 3 or 4 years ago. So I personally don't have any beef. I'll have banter, but I don't really have any beef with anybody. The KSI Logan thing, I hope it's the end of it. Not for them personally, but I just hope it's the end of it, you know, the diss tracks and all that lot. I think, can we find something new? I almost think, instead of the bloody diss tracks and the beef and everything like that, there must be another angle. But I think the fight on Saturday, is it Saturday night, is going to be quite interesting. I'm going to go with KSI. Don't know him, but he's British, isn't he? He's our YouTuber, so that's enough for me. But I think you lot have a part to play in it, because I think that, you know, that thing that me and DT had on the football pitch last year, very quickly that became a bit embarrassing, and I saw a lot of people on social media saying that's embarrassing. So why do people want to go back down those roads? Negativity breeds negativity. Let's take some of your questions then. Did you know? Oh, let's get it up on screen first. Let's get it up on screen. Where is that? There we go. So George Kyle, if you could be in any fantasy world, which one? For example, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. What character would you be? I'd probably like to be in Star Wars, but Darth Vader's always scared the shit out of me, to be honest with you. Let's have a look. Do I believe in aliens, Harvey? Well, I don't believe in aliens, not like E.T., but there's definitely going to be another brand of human being out there. Brand of human being, yeah. Which brings, going back to brands actually, let's just say that if, with all this beef stuff, I meant to say this as well, KSI and Logan Paul, look at their beef, look at their argument. The world's going to watch it. It's a star. All this stuff you get in like United community or even in the football fan community, it's rather embarrassing, isn't it? Because you'll never emulate what KSI and Logan Paul have done. So any argument you've got, it ain't even Asda edition. It ain't even Poundland edition. It's car boot sale edition. Oh, I've got a beef with such and such from such and such fan channel or football outlet. Yeah. KSI Logan Paul making billions with millions watching. Football beef. Yeah, get it next Sunday, car boot sale. We'll put you at the back lot. It's a waste of time. In fact, we've just touched that by Evan. We're getting a little bit of interference here on the screen, which is not good. Do you have another job beside being a vlogger? How do you find the time between family, work and vlogging? Says Salim. I get asked this a lot. Fascination, so I'll answer it. I've never really answered it, I don't think. Absolute fascination with this. I'd say that United Stand is pretty much my full-time job now. I do have a professional background in numerous jobs, and I do sort of do little bits here and there, But it's a time issue for me. I can pick that up when I want to do it. I went self-employed with that probably about 2 years ago, so I could combine United Stand and my professional job, which was in sort of financial work. But I've regressed and stopped doing a lot of that now because the United Stand takes up so much time. And it always makes me laugh how people say, oh, you're living the dream playing FIFA at lunchtime. Well, I play FIFA at lunchtime because it's lunchtime. It's my lunch break. That's when I play FIFA. It's normally around 1 o'clock or 1:30 or Call of Duty or whatever, or Football Manager. If you notice, it's normally around that time, or sometimes I'll do it at 7 o'clock. It's not my working day. My working day is pretty much, based around the United Stand. And United Stand isn't, like, even me doing this for 20 minutes, people say, why don't you do more going for Goldbridge? It's a 20-minute thing, but it's not a 20-minute thing. I've got to get the suit on. I'm not Michael Caine. I've got to get the suit on. That's a joke. I've got to set it up and designate, really, not just 20 minutes to film it, but edit it, upload it. Everything takes time. And, every United Stand video at 8 o'clock, all right, I'm live for an hour. That's an hour of your evening every night. But it's the prep work, which is another hour. We're putting out a couple of videos a day. There's planning, there's expense. There's so much that goes into the United Stand to keep it rolling day to day. And I have a lot of respect for a lot of fan channels who do that, and websites. It is a full-time job and more, and there's a lot of people involved in the United Stand, not just me. So it pretty much is full-time at the moment, and it's 7 days a week. It is 7 days a week, because if you think about the social media posts, the Instagram and everything like that, it's a very, very tiring job, and I wouldn't complain about it, but there's definitely a shelf life for it, because you can't just keep doing it day in, day out, for year in, year out. I think people think it's the dream, and I do feel fortunate to do it, because it's something I enjoy. But it's the hardest job I've ever had. It's the hardest job I've had. And I've done policing, where you're working, 3 or 4 days in a row, 24 hours when the riots were on, nights, everything. This is harder. It's a big, big drain, because it never stops. If you could live the life of anyone in the world, past or present, for only a day, who would you want to be and why? Mizan Ahmed. There's probably a far better answer to this, Mizan Ahmed, but I wouldn't mind being, it'd have to be on a day that they're playing a really important game, but football's my passion, so I wouldn't have minded playing as, any of these players would be fine. Ronaldo, Messi, George Best, Zidane, David Beckham, one of those people on a really important game. So yeah, I'd just love to live that experience. I think it'd be absolutely fantastic, because I always wanted to be a professional footballer. So I mean, imagine, people would say Beckham, or you could have picked Rooney or someone like that. But Beckham was an idol of mine growing up. Roy Keane would be good as well. I think Roy Keane in that game in Turin in '99 in the Champions League semi-final, that would be a special game to play. But then again, he would have been shit, and we wouldn't have won the treble, because I'd be Roy Keane for the day. So he wouldn't have played that well. So I'd probably rather do it in a low-key game where Roy Keane played shit, where I can enjoy the example of it and get away with him being shit. That would be catastrophic for United's history if I could be Roy Keane for the day, 1999 Turin Champions League second leg semi-final, where Roy Keane basically got us to the final in a yellow card. And there's me. We'll probably lose 5-0. What do you think of the pedestrianisation of Norwich City Centre? I'm all for it. Who would win a fight? Yeah, we're not doing that. If you could have a just three... I'm trying to find good questions. How many times... Okay, boring. Boring. Would you rather be the last person on Earth or die with everyone? Cohen. I think I'd probably rather be the last person on Earth, because then I can make an executive decision. If I say, I'd rather die with everyone, then I'm dead. But if I'm the last person on Earth, I can see what it's like, and then... maybe jump off a cliff if I don't like it. So, for me, there's a bonus there. You're going to die anyway, but being the last person on Earth might be all right. Depends whether you've got electricity and decent Wi-Fi, isn't it? Yeah. Have you ever cried or got emotional over a United game, says B3U? Yeah, definitely. Loads of times. The big one for me are both the Champions League finals. 99 was just ridiculous. The emotion in that was just a culmination of a season. And I always say this about the 99 final. The season had been brilliant. You think about Giggs as winner in the FA Cup and winning the Premier League. And then there was this destiny feeling about the Champions League, because we hadn't won it for so long. You get in the final, and Bayern Munich without doubt, a lot of you are too young to remember, Bayern Munich were the better team in that final, and they should have won it. They went 1-0 up rather early. It should have been 2-0 and game over. And you get to the 90th minute, and you're like, well, there's a chance. They've not put this game to bed. There is a chance. And I remember being in a room in Ireland. Barry Reid, shout him out, in Malahide. And there must have been about 30 people of us watching it. We decided not to go down the pub, and we had a house party. And everyone was supporting United. But you find out who really supports football when you get to that stage and only a couple of people in the room understand it. And everyone's talking about going down the pub, oh, it's disappointing. There's me and this other United fan, and we're just like, oh my God, this is horrible. It doesn't matter what we've achieved this season, this is horrible. And then we got the equaliser from Sheringham, and I nearly broke my ankle. I jumped off the sofa over the bloody coffee table. And that was the biggest goal for me. I always say that. The Sheringham goal exhausted me because it was like, we're back in it. And then Solskjaer scored so quickly after, you're still celebrating the Sheringham goal. And it was amazing, but for me, the Sheringham equaliser just was like, oh my life. So that was an amazing thing, and there was a few tears there. And then the Champions League in 2008, when Mr. Chelsea stepped up, Terry, and you just thought, I can't stand this bloke, and he's about to win the Champions League, and then he slips and misses, and we win it. That was like going from a moment of this is gone to it's back. But there's been some United through the years. I have been very, very lucky. Do you think children enjoy child much as adults? Oh God, Wayne Yates. People are always trying to be clever, aren't they? Will the world really end in 10 years' time, Pat? Yes. How the fuck do I know? I don't know. Chicken nuggets or hot dog? Nuggets for me. I do like a nice hot dog every now and again. Oops, pardon. Having a turd is the most underrated thing we do as humans. Thoughts, says Stevie Osros. Brave person to put that, but I sort of do. Sometimes it can be very satisfying if it's the right consistency. What a reply. Will you play through the Call of Duty campaign? We'll have to wait and see. It'll be on this channel. Make sure you subscribe if you do. Chinese or Indian, says Dylan Rickson. Depends on the mood. Both very good takeaways. Hardest decision of your life, Dominic Crew. I saw this before. Hardest decision of my life. Bloody hell. I mean, it's a good, deep question. When did you lose your virginity? I'll tell you what. I'll name the person. I'll tell you where it was and everything. I'm more than happy to do that. Come on. Some things you've got to keep back. Doesn't matter. This is a good question. Do you think the Joker sends out a dangerous message which glamorises rebellion from a standpoint of an ex-police officer investigator? Look, I was joking with Troops about this a few weeks ago because he was smoking on a joint and he was like, oh, don't tell your police officer mates. And I'm like, mate, the things I've done in my life before, after, I'm not going to say during, I've done a lot of things. And I think you do need to do a lot of things in life to grow up and mature. So I'm not somebody who, I was in the police. Oh, look, you're in a 13, you're driving 33 miles an hour. To be honest, I'm probably the worst person at that. So look, and most people I knew in the police, they're not jobs with people who are like, look at you littering, that's a fine. It's just common sense. Policing is the best way of policing. You need people from all walks of life, not just, different diversity, but different opinions. So to say, well, from the standpoint of an ex-police officer, I left that world a long time ago, and I don't see myself as an ex-police officer at all, and I'm not interested in that sort of thing. If you've got a boot full of knocked off Reebok trainers, I ain't going to call the local police. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Obviously, like any citizen, if I see somebody beating somebody up, I probably will call the police or something like that, but I'm not interested in petty things like that. That's not why I went into the police anyway. But from Joker, does the Joker send out a dangerous message which glamorises rebellion? Well, I've always loved Goodfellas, The Departed, things like that, and that's nothing to do with quality policing, is it? That's gangster stuff, and I've always liked that. So I think the Joker sends out an absolutely perfect message, and I've done a video on this already, about mental health. And the reality is, it's not comfortable. It isn't, rosy in the garden. It's real. It's real, and how you deal with mental health. There is no one size fits all. There's a tablet. There's a bit of therapy. I think the Joker's brilliant at showing the disintegration of the human mind and the vulnerability of it, and how external impacts can make it worse. I think it's just a very good film, and I'm so glad that it's doing so well, because it's not a traditional blockbuster thriller film, is it? It's not. It sends a hard message. It makes you walk out thinking. There is no real happy ending with it. It leaves a lot of loose ends, and I think for a film like that to be doing so well is brilliant in the modern society, especially around the world that we operate in, because we're all, if you're watching this, you're on social media. It's great. It's absolutely brilliant. So I really do enjoy it. I really did enjoy it, and I thought it was. I don't think it sends out a bad message about rebellion. You could see it. Actually, I think that what it does do is it sends out a message about bullying, because effectively. He is bullied, isn't he? And he reacts to that. You think about the murder on the train. That's very, very brutal. But those people are bullying him. So, it sends out some very mixed messages. It definitely doesn't send the message out of this is the right thing to do. But it definitely it sends a message of cause and action will lead to a cause. Favourite 3 chocolate bars. Topic, Snickers and Galaxy. That's just at the moment though. My most memorable dream, Adam. You know what? This is really interesting actually on dreams. We're probably going to overrun a little bit, and I'm still thinking about the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life. Fortunately for me, I haven't had to turn off the life support machine of my childhood pet, because he got run over and he's just in a coma for 4 years, and I had to turn it off. I've not got anything like that, I don't think. I don't think I've ever had the hard decision in relation to something like that some people unfortunately do have. But hardest decision of my life. I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble. I'm sure the wife's going to absolutely go in on me later for something that's absolutely obvious. But one of the hardest decisions of my life, and it might not be the hardest, there might be something that I'm totally thinking about that I can't think about, if that makes sense. I left England when I was 18, and I come from quite a small village, Cropple Bishop, massive, give it a shout out, and it was a big decision to leave there and move to Dublin, which basically set my life on a bigger picture. I view the world as a smaller place than I did when I lived in Cropple Bishop, and I know a lot of friends from school and that, and I was back there at the weekend, and they've lived their life pretty much within a 10-mile radius of where they grew up, and there's nothing wrong with that. In many ways, I look at it and I think, local pub, everybody, it's quite a nice community thing. But I left that when I was young, went to Dublin, which is a capital city, had a great time, went back to Nottingham for a very short period, then down to Birmingham, and I spend a lot of time in London. I do a lot of travelling, and the world's a small place. So that was a big decision, because I could have just said, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to stay here, and my life would have been very different. I definitely wouldn't have ended up doing this, because I broadened my horizons and made it, I think when you live your life in a small radius, sometimes the outside world just seems a little bit out of reach. So that was quite a big decision to make, if I'm absolutely honest with you. But yeah, my most memorable dream. Yeah, I was going to come back to that. Let me just knock this off for a minute, because it's quite what's the word? It's quite distractionary. I like that word. I've got 3 young kids. Well, one of them's at secondary school now. Unfortunately, they never, ever, ever have said anything to me about nightmares. And I think that's something that I grew up with that I don't think everybody does. From the age of about 4 to 15, if I didn't have a bad nightmare a week, there was something that was out of the ordinary. Now, my kids don't have nightmares. Now, I don't know why that is, and maybe I'm wandering into therapy here. Maybe you've got me thinking because of the Joker, but I always had nightmares growing up. And I don't know whether I should talk about this, but I had this recurring nightmare as a child about this black wolf thing that really used to appear in my dreams all the time. And I think it was based on these Ladybird books when I was growing up. The Three Little Pigs, but more Red Riding Hood. There was this Red Riding Hood figure on the front and the wolf next to it that could walk. It makes me feel a bit horrible now, and it used to always appear in my dreams, and it was like my nemesis in an evil way. So, you know, why couldn't I have had like SpongeBob SquarePants or something like that? I get a big bloody wolf thing, and I used to have a lot of nightmares. And sharks as well, yeah, Darth Vader, loads and loads of things. I had a lot of nightmares, so I don't know whether you lot did or didn't. If you didn't, then you're probably in the majority, because like I say, I don't really, even like my, you know, friends who've got children and my sister and that, they don't talk about their kids having nightmares, but I used to have loads of them. And I don't think my sister really had them when she was growing up, as far as I know, but I had loads of them, and I don't know why that is. I think it might be because of a creative mind. I mean, I had a little bit of an unhappy childhood in the sense that my parents broke up, and that led to a disjointed upbringing, and I had to do things I didn't want to do, like you know, go on holidays with my dad. I didn't really want to do that, and you know, weekends I'd be at my dad's when you'd want to be, you know, at home with your mates. So things can affect you, but I think it was an imaginatory mind that, you know, you can wander to the good places. As a creative mind, you can wander to the good places, very good, but you can also wander to the bad places because your mind's quite creative. So yeah, I don't know whether there is something that goes in what's the word? Bloody hell, you're doing a video and you can't think of the word. If you have a creative mind, you're going to have more nightmares. And by creative mind, I don't mean you're the next bloody Stephen Fry, and I don't mean that, or Ricky Gervais or whoever. You know, creative mind can be a website designer, an artist. You know, you just read a lot of books. It doesn't mean that you've got a blue tick on Twitter. But yeah, so I've had some memorable dreams though. I mean, look, I've had some good dreams, as I'm sure we all have. They're a bit X-rated. YouPorn's got nothing on some of my dreams, I tell you. But most of those were in my teens. I had a busy mind then, as I'm sure we all do. But memorable dream. I'm trying to think. I think I do remember a dream when I was quite young. And I always like action. I like films, but I don't like your Jason Statham action. I like it with a bit of depth. You know. I think about like Mark Wahlberg in Lone Shooter, wasn't it, or something like that, when he falls down a cliff. Anyway, that sort of action with a bit of realism. So I had a dream when I was about 16. I remember it, and basically the school gets sieged by these. I think they were Russian terrorists. And we ended up, and it was my school, sort of surrounded, and they were trying to infiltrate the school, and me and a few of the lads sort of took control, and somehow we, you know, you just do have a room that's full of AK-47s and grenades, and it ended up it was a massive long dream. I must have been ill or concussed, because when you're concussed you dream more, don't you? And basically ended up being this fight, and of course the good-looking girls were really interested in me because I was doing well. I was killing loads of Russian terrorists, so it was a good dream, that was. I always remember that one. But yeah, and then I probably, knowing my dreams, I probably killed all the terrorists, was the hero. The best-looking girl in the school said, "Come to my locker," which turned into a big comfy room. She probably just revealed a little bit of breast, and then I woke up and didn't get to do it all, because that always seems to happen on a dream, doesn't it? And on that bombshell, or boob shell, I think we'll conclude it there, because I'm going on too long. But thanks everybody for watching. Please do subscribe if you're new, smash a like, get your comments in below. I will try and do more of these if people want me to do them. I'm more than happy to. But I shall speak to you all soon. Thank you for watching. I'm thinking of doing a little pose on Instagram of me in this outfit, so you can follow me on Instagram at Goldbridge Mark. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you all soon.